What advice would you give to an agent that is looking at either joining or transitioning into Medicare sales specifically? Even though there's some potential changes around that, why should they give that part of the industry such a serious look?
Well, the first thing I would say is find an organization that you like. There's many
Mhm.
organizations out there that are going to give you the same street contract. And the reason I say that is if you don't like who you're working with, you're not going to go very far.
What is up? Welcome back to the CA Power Player Podcast. We have a special guest who has been on before, and we are bringing him back due to popular demand. I love hanging out with this cat, man. Like, this dude has achieved so much, and he cares about people, and he's going to help you do the exact same thing today. So please welcome the founder of Brady Insurance Marketing, Mr. Ty Brady. What's up, Ty?
Well, welcome, or not welcome, but thank you for having me on the show. Always a pleasure. It's good to get out and always share our thoughts and what we believe and inspire other people to do the same. And really enjoy it.
Hey, man, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. I know you're super busy. I appreciate you taking time. I know a few things I wanted to talk through today was we talked a lot about like agents and self-doubt and belief and all those things, how important that is. Before we get there, though, we were talking about something a second ago that I kind of wanted to like bring light to that you mentioned a couple things that you found out that you have, right? Why don't you
Yeah.
share that really quick? Because I thought it was super relatable.
It's I'm back in my day, I am 45 years old, but they didn't understand what ADHD was or even dyslexia, and unfortunately I got both. And mine's a different form of dyslexia, meaning I don't hear the vowels. So when I would sit down with my resource teacher and teach me how to read, I would sit there, what's the vowel say? To this day, it does not literally compute in my brain. My brain just rejects it. So I had
Mm,
to learn to sight read. And, part of that is people say, Ty, you got a memory that is unbelievable. And I think part of that is attributed to my dyslexia because I had to sight read. So I had to learn people's faces, hey, this is Judy. And I would instantly be like, that's Judy. Or when I would do a spelling test, I would literally have to sight read or not. I had to learn the word and I would sit there and be like, okay, I got to remember how this is spelled because I couldn't sound it out. One other thing with my dyslexia is I'd always transpose, my last name's Brady. I'd always transpose the B and the D. And teachers were like, hey, I don't know why this is or why is that. But one of the statistics that I read, people that have dyslexia are 35% more likely to be entrepreneurs. And I think it's because personally, from my point of view, is that I fought through a lot. I failed a lot. I was, bullied as a kid. I wasn't like the other kids. I mean, I was behind in a lot. I was good with math, but reading and comprehension and English was horrible. It still is to this day. People are like, I just speak Thai. I speak a different language because of that deal. But we all have trauma in our lives. We all have issues in our lives. You may be dyslexic or you may be ADHD, but you can
mhm.
overcome those. The other one that I saw was people that are ADHD are 300% more likely to be an entrepreneur. And those are
Wow.
some alarming statistics to me. And unfortunately, I think some of my kids have some of those attributes and those traits, but I've learned to be like, I got to keep them busy. So I'm kid you not. It's my kids are like, Dad, what are we doing today? Are we going snowboarding? Are we going to go play on the ATVs? Are we going to go boating? I mean, it is keeping them busy and keeping their brains acclimated because they just want to go, 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 go.
Mm,
And I think at the same time, it could be a detriment, meaning, when your brain's bouncing and firing all these different directions, you really have to hone in on. I was task driven when I was a kid. I knew that if my mom gave me a list of chores to do, I knew that if I got all those done, I could go do what I wanted to. So I'd come home, I'd do my chores, and I'd be off playing. So there are a lot of things that I learned as a kid. I learned to actually use as a strength and learned how to work through both of those. They're My brain fires really crazy. And a
mhm.
lot of people say, they speak the language of Thai, especially my wife, because I'm thinking five things ahead and I miss some things in between. And sometimes I have to go back and restate what I was saying, trying to get my point across. But if you have any of those things, just know that the sky's the limit. Use those things as strengths. They're
Yeah.
not weaknesses, and you'll be better for it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you're in? That's a really good explanation, by the way. Do you ever feel like you're in conversation and you like break away from the conversation and then you come back and jump right back in the conversation where you were at.
Yeah.
And the person's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, well, you're talking about earlier." They're like, "Oh."
And they've gone past it, right? But my
Yeah.
brain was thinking like all these other things, right? And I want to come back to my point, and yeah, but again, people that know me, they know me well, and they just they know how to read me, they know how to see
Yeah.
it, watch it, know how to develop it. So
I love that you're mentioning that too because, like, I feel like I've definitely got some, undiagnosed ADHD. I was walking around the office past week, and I'm like someone was like, "Yeah, I just got diagnosed with this." I'm like, "You know what? I may be it. I just haven't been tested. I don't know, you know?" And they're like, "No, no, you definitely are. Like, you're freaking bounce. You're everywhere, bro. You see 7 squirrels every conversation, you know?"
yeah.
So I get it. But also too, like, what do you think about society always wanting to put a label on people eh,
Ah.
versus you controlling what label is put on you?
Oh man, I am not a fan of labels. And I'm the CEO, president of Brady Insurance Marketing, and people will say that, and I'm like, it's not about me, it's about them. And the labels can change. Think about that. Labels can change,
Mhm.
and I mean, I know I have these two issues, but I don't ever. I mean, I'm very quiet about it, but people that know me, like my wife, she's like, "Yeah, you do," or my sister. And one of the things that's interesting is people say, "Well, you drink caffeine." I'm like, "I drink caffeine all the time. It actually slows me down." It does the reverse effect, and people are like, "Well, how do you drink caffeine at 8 o'clock at night?" But I think it's just the way my brain fires.
Yeah,
I don't know all the science behind it, but and you know what? I've never taken medicine for it. I've just worked through it, and I mean, I think that can be done that way through diet and some other things. I'm not, but you can use it to a strength. What I don't want is to take a medicine and it makes me docile or I lose my edge.
correct.
So I'm like, but everybody do you, right? I mean, I know kids that I went to the school with back in the day. I think it was called Ritalin. They'd give them Ritalin to slow them down. But I was never. My mom was against medicine, and she's always if there's a better way to do it through diet, through exercise. Like my kids, keep them busy, right? Well, how can
Yeah.
we keep them busy? Dance, cheer, soccer, football, lacrosse, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense, man. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, you have gotten to a extremely high level at what you do, and anything that it's going to change or alter your state or slow you down, you would go by in 90 days and be like, "Oh, freak, I can't keep doing this." Maybe even sooner, maybe 90 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it would even last that long. You're right. It wouldn't be too long. I'd be like, forget this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's cool that we're mentioning this. Is like, hey, for those who are listening, like, you're new to the business, you've been in the business forever, you're struggling in the business, whatever. Like, there are, people just like Ty that that aren't perfect, that people try to put labels on them, that have some of these issues they're working through, that can still produce and help a ton of people and build a multi 7-figure business with these things going on. Like, did you ever dream that you would have the company that you have today?
No, there was some points in my life when I made some goals and put on a dream board like, hey, here's what I want to achieve. I remember at a young age, I had 8 sisters, 2 brothers, and if I wanted something, my parents would be like, you have to go out and earn it, hard work. I think I was mowing lawns at age 8, it seemed like, and doing my laundry. So I've
Wow.
always worked hard. It's an attribute my dad gave me. My dad always worked 2 jobs trying to feed us. But my parents always made sure I had a roof over my head and that I had a place to put my and food in my mouth. It might have not been the best food. My wife makes fun of me to this day because I do not eat leftovers. It could be the best leftovers ever, and I won't eat it. I just barely started eating spaghetti again after 45 years. It was my mom, bless her heart. She would, with 8 sisters, 2 brothers. I was towards the end. She would take Thursdays and Fridays, whatever was left in the fridge, put it together, and it was remixed, man. And I couldn't do it.
A
Can't
lot of
do it.
spaghetti, a lot of
Like, no,
spaghetti.
a lot of pasta. Yeah, I'm not steak and eggs, man, or steak. And love my mom, but we are a product of our environment, and
Yeah,
bless her heart. But it wanted me to do better and be better. One of the things that I mean, I relate to this day is I wanted to be able to be financially free. So that was kind of a goal I set at a young age. and I didn't want anyone to control my destiny. Those were two things that I decided
Mm,
long ago. I mean, I saw the struggles my dad had working a job, two jobs, and he was just breaking even. And then I saw my friends' dads that had one of my friends' dad, he repaired turbos for diesels. Had a business. His dad retired at age 42. Just very very successful. His dad was a mechanical engineer, and his dad used to like to fly airplanes. RC airplanes. In fact, he built a jet from scratch. It was pretty cool. He also built a rocket from scratch. So as a kid, that's kind of what I was like. Hey, I want to be able to have that freedom. So I made a decision that I would have the ability to retire at age 40, which I could retire, but now it's about giving back. How many people can I give back? How many people can I help? How many people can I inspire? And that's what it's about now, because I know what it's done for me, my family, and people that are close to me. And how many more people can I achieve, or how many more Christmases can people buy, with learning about an opportunity?
absolutely. Yeah. One of the things when I like have been around you, I think there's a few things I respect. I mean, you can tell that you're um, high integrity, morals, ethics, all that are through the roof, right? Which is awesome. I love surrounding myself with people that align in the same ways. But also too, like, um, on the other side, you got someone who freaking works his butt off and deserves everything he's ever gotten because he's earning it, right? Which is cool. You're probably like this. You're probably similar to me, and where I was raised, like, don't let anybody, give you stuff. Like, you go out and earn it. But in the middle, you've got like this swag and this confidence and this belief in you that I know a lot of agents will be really attracted to as they embark on this journey, and there's self doubt and lack of belief and lack of confidence. I always say confidence is the memory of success. Um, is that where your confidence comes from? Is that you've won enough over the years, or do you always have confidence, or how do you keep such a high belief in you and your abilities?
It comes in stages, it comes in waves. I mean, I remember when I sat down and talked to my wife, I said, "Hey, I really want to do this." One of the things is my wife has always been an anchor and a support. She's like, "Whatever we got to do, you just can't move the kids." She's like, "You can go on the road, whatever." But when I made the transition from working a part-time job, doing insurance on the side, to do it full time, and I said, "Hey, it's going to take me going on the road," it was hard. I mean, I was
Mm,
days I'm like, dude, I do not want to get on that plane. I refuse. I didn't want to be away from my family. I didn't want to be away from my kids. But what it was is the horizon was greater, or the reward was greater than the immediate feeling. And so I would push through. And what happens over time, that discipline, because I would book my flight, I'd get on the road. What I would do is I would go and sell policies all over the country. I'd recruit agents, and then I'd leave the agents in that county or wherever I was working the leads and say, "Hey, finish up and follow up with these folks. I'll be back in 6 weeks." I did
mm,
that for 2 years, and over time, it became easier and easier and easier. And then after 2 years, I'm like, okay, I've done this enough. Now I'm going to scale back and do it once a month. Then I was able to, and then not only that, but just what's happened the last 10 years with technology. More, I mean, doing this podcast interview as an example, it's face to face, but you're in a different state than I am at. I mean, that's come a long ways in the last 5 years. So
yeah.
the outreach that you're able to get, and to get in front of more people quicker and faster, is just incredible. But as you you have that mind, first I had the mindset, right, that I'm going to do it no matter what. And then as I continue to exercise my faith and move forward and do the work, then the confidence came. And I think what happens over time is some people give up, because there was times I wanted to give up, but I wouldn't
Mm,
allow myself. I was like, I can't do it. I got mouths to feed at home. I don't want to go home and tell my wife that I failed this week and I didn't sell a single policy. I remember the first time I came home, I said, "Honey, I sold a policy today." She's like, "Well, there was only $13 deposited in the bank account, but those $13 add up. That $13, and you get 100 of them, and then 1,000 of them, and then you get 30,000, and so on and so on. That all adds up over time." And now she's like, "Okay, I did make fun of you," which I love her to death. But at the end of the day, she was still my greatest support and advocate. But it's that belief came over time. And I think your belief becomes stronger. Right
mhm.
now we're dealing with something in the industry that they want to get rid of us. And there's days I'm like, everything's going to be okay. And then there's days I'm like, crap, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I got to help them a different way. And I don't know what that looks like yet. I think we're going to be fine, but just keep moving forward.
Totally. You also talked about like your support system, right, with
Mhm.
your wife and other people in your life. I think it's an important thing to note because like my wife's been an incredible support. She's always believed in me even more than I believe in me sometimes, right? Because we go through those days. Um, and even something interesting like that. I love my mother-in-law, but like there was a point early in my career where she was telling my wife like, "Hey, Cody, why doesn't Cody get a real job? You know, like he doesn't have benefits and 401k and health insurance and all this stuff. You know, salary. You know, um, and it's interesting because like you need people like a Ty Brady that can speak life into you, that believe in you, that can make you believe in yourself. How important is it? Like we always hear your network's your net worth. You are the 5 people you surround yourself with. What are your thoughts on that concept and the importance of that in this industry?
It's true. I mean, you need that support group. And one of the things that you talked about that is interesting is I never wanted to come home and tell my wife I didn't succeed that week.
Mm,
I would tell her I was one more closer. I was one deal closer to getting a deal done, or I was one day more closer to getting a recruit, or whatever it is. Because over time, if I came home and brought that negativity for the dream that I wanted to chase, eventually, what she's going to say, Ty, go get a real job. Or why are you complaining? Or quit
yeah.
being a negative Nelly. I would always keep that to myself. But at times, I'm like, I got to tell somebody. So I had those people that were doing what I was doing to talk to and be like, they're like, Ty, don't worry about it. Just keep grinding, keep your
Mm,
head down. But you are a product of the people you spend the most time with. My mom used to always say, you're born to be kings and queens anytime we leave the house. My sisters were born to be queens and we were born to be kings. And she would without fail would always say that. You talk about framework, or in a previous podcast we talked about a dream board. That framework, what is the framework that you're putting out there? What are the vibes you're giving the universe? Because I'm convinced whatever you put out there, you'll get back 100-fold. If you want to make more money, give more, spend more time serving,
mm,
spend more time giving money. People, you're not going to spend your way to profitability, or excuse me, you spend your way to profitability, you don't save your way to profitability. I mean, and you're going to
good.
spend it, you're going to help more people. You're going to be a greater impact to those around you. I mean, you look at the greatest brands in the world. You have Walmart, Amazon, Apple. They're still advertised to this day. And it's a struggle for me sometimes to talk to agents. You need to advertise. Was it talking where your feet are? Is it volunteering? What is it? What if you don't have money to go out and spend a bunch of money in advertising? Then talk where your feet are. How many people can I talk to today? Set a benchmark, set a goal. Can I talk to 20 people? Tell them who I am and what I do. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Have an elevator speech like, hey, I help people aging into Medicare, already Medicare with their health insurance. I tell agents, that's what I say. If I'm recruiting agents, I help agents get into the industry. I recruit them and train them. Why? Because I want to help them to achieve their financial future, whether it be a 6 or 7 figure income, 8 figures. I don't care. The sky's the
Mm,
limit. But that's what I want to project to people. That's what I want people to see in me, is that it is possible. I mean, I started from the ground up. I was just in, but now I just want an impact and help more people.
yeah, you can totally tell that you do too. One of the things that you were kind of talking through that I was thinking about is um, that's a good point. Like I think a lot of agents do go home and whine and complain about what they're doing. And we got to remember, like, our spouse, partners, family, friends, whatever, they may believe in us, right? Which hopefully they do. Sometimes they don't. So you got to prove it. You got to earn that a little bit, but they will never believe in the opportunity as much as we do. Okay. Like, your wife's probably like really close and on board and clearly gets it now. She's like, dude, this is amazing. It's changed our life, which is awesome. But agents, they got to realize like, we've got to believe so much in the opportunity that we are optimistic. Because when we go home and we complain, dude, then it's like, well, yeah, no, you have told them time and time again for days and months that this sucks. And finally they're like, you don't even like this. Why are you doing it? Yeah.
I've had mentors throughout the years, coaches. I've spent money, and some of the hardest criticism that I received was from people that were my mentors. And I remember some stories when I'd go in there and I'm like, man, my policy just got replaced, and my mentor said, "Well, Ty, we're in the replacement business. Go get another one." I'm like, oh. I wanted him to hear my story, and I wanted him to hear me complain about why someone stole my book, my policy holder, right? But you know what? He said, Ty, that's on you. He says, that's on you. You didn't stay in contact with them. You didn't create a big enough need. You didn't close every single door and every every element of their concern or whatever their concern was. You didn't do a good enough job. And I'm like, ouch. You know what? That hurt. But at the same time, he was right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And he was the
That's
one that always told me, you can't go home and complain to your wife. You can come and talk to me, but don't go home and complain to your wife, because then she is going to say, go get a real job.
that's good.
I do
Oh
have
my
a
god.
real job. I really
Yeah.
do. I have a great job. I have a wonderful job.
Amen to
Meet
that.
great people like you
Yeah, you
and
too,
across the
buddy.
country.
That's right, man. Amen to that. Here's one other thing I was thinking about is you said you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. This is one of my first rules of success. I put it on Instagram this morning and it says success is about showing up even when you don't want to. You talked about it a minute ago about how there's moments where you're like, "Ah, I don't want to go do this or I don't want to do that or, whatever. What do you do when you're like, okay, it's 6 in the morning and you got a full day and you're going to drive somewhere and you're just like, gosh dang it, I just want to stay home and hang out. I don't want to go do this. What do you do? How do you handle that?
Well, like today, I'd rather be snowboarding with my kids, right? But we'd scheduled this. First of all, is that if it's scheduled, I'm going to do it no matter what, unless I'm on my deathbed. So
Yeah,
I have a schedule. You know, I tell myself I'm going to go to the office from 8 to 12. That's where I get a lot of computer work done. I'm able to interact with my two recruiters, find out how the week's going in recruiting. So I have a schedule that's set. And then Friday is my cleanup day. So I usually work Monday through Thursday. Friday's my cleanup day. And then Saturdays, running around taking care of errands, or, I'm on the football field with my boys. I'm helping them with lacrosse. But I mean, I'm always doing something. And people say, Ty, how do you do all this? I'm like, I just schedule it. I
mm,
mean, I don't watch a lot of TV shows. I rely on a lot of people I have around me. If it's above my pay grade, or below my pay grade, I let someone else do it. So those small things that are, I can't be everywhere to everyone. And for instance, I read something too about this, is that 50% of 10 people is 500% versus 100% of you when you max out at 100%. So would you rather have 10 people that work at 50% of what you're able to do, which gives you 500% more greater than what you're able to do on your own?
that's
And
good.
there's times I'm frustrated as I hire contract employees, and I'm like, why can't I do this, right? Or this or that? But I have to rely on them. They're developing as well. And they are giving me more time to do those things because they're taking things off my plate that normally wouldn't do. Yeah, but I'm sure you see that. You're
Oh,
like, man,
totally.
I wish they'd take a little bit more initiative, right? Or this or that. But at the same time, they're developing in their roles as well.
100%. Yes. What advice, last question, what advice would you give to an agent that is looking at either joining or transitioning into Medicare sales specifically? Even though there's some potential changes around that, um, why should they give that part of the industry such a serious look?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that everyone understands that it does not affect the street agent. So the street agent, actually, they're talking about wanting to give you a raise. What
True.
it would affect is, for instance, the things that I offer at no cost to insurance agents. There's override paid to my agency. That's what they're going after. But they say in the proposal, they say FMOs. It's not just the FMOs. It's from the street agent all the way up. So if you're a GA, MGA, whatever it is, that's liable to go away. On some positive notes, I've had lengthy conversations with members of Congress and the Senate. And one of the things that they told me that gave me some positive hope is, like, we control the funding that goes to the centers of Medicaid services. So if they do something dramatic, we can definitely decrease funding to those organizations. And we're making a lot of noise right now. They said that there was going to be a decision by the 25th of January. They're actually saying we may not see an end result for 8 to 12 more weeks, just because of the influx of noise that we created. So I'm very optimistic that everything will be okay. There'll be changes. I'm not going to say there's not,
Sure.
but we've definitely, we've started to create some noise, and the need for the need for upline people, not just FMOs, it's GAs, MGAs. But the first thing I would say is find an organization that you like. There's many
Mhm.
organizations out there that are going to give you the same street contract. And the reason I say that is, if you don't like who you're working with, you're not going to go very far. We talked about the 5 people that you surround yourself with. That's who you'll become, and I believe that's true wholeheartedly. But find that organization that is going to work for you. And the other thing too is make sure if you want to go captive, you can go captive. That means they own your book of business. That's not my model. Everybody that works for me, they're 1099. They work for themselves. They get paid from the carrier direct. But what I would say is don't interview different organizations. Number one. Number two is that sit down and compare what they're bringing to the table. I mean, because the other thing too is there's contracting houses. What I mean, they're going to give you a contract and they're going to say, go figure it out. Go
Yeah.
figure it out. You're not going to get any training. You're not going to get support. You'll never talk to that person again. You know, I have 22 managers now. Each of them, get this, does not get paid a dime unless you write business. So they're incentivized to help you write business. That's the way it's structured. It isn't that you come on board and there's a recruiter on the phone that gets a $2,500 bonus and then they forget about you. So find the organization that works for you or the person that works for you. And then I would ride on their tail or coat. I would be with them every minute of the day, all day, every day. What I mean by that is if they're going on an appointment, go with them. I mean, entrench yourself in this business. And it's hard, right? Or everyone would be doing. There's the first 90 days are rough. The first 2 years are harder after that. Your hardest part is getting leads. The second hardest part is getting out of your own way. I mean, we talked about that is, what happened though over time when I didn't want to do something, I would do it anyway. And then it became easy, right? It's like, then I just did it out of habit or ritual routine. And that's what happens over time is you do those things, the habit, the ritual, and the routines, they're going to stick with you when you don't want to do it, and you'll do it anyway. But you've got to get to the point where it becomes a habit, a ritual, a routine. So it's second nature.
I love that. Such a good answer. If they want to learn more about Brady Insurance Marketing, speak to you, your team, maybe shadow one of your managers, what should they do or where should they go?
So the first thing is you can connect with me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You can DM me there on any of those, Brady Insurance Marketing. The other one is I like to do things face to face. I don't like to say here's my Calendarly link and schedule an appointment with me. You can reach out directly through text or phone. My direct number is 1-385-800-1956. That is 1-385-800-1956. Love to chat with you, see if we're a good fit for you. If we are, great. If we're not, no harm, no foul. I think you should interview multiple organizations, find out if they're a contracting house, what kind of training and support they have, if they're captive, non-captive. Those are questions I ask everybody I interview with or interview. And we're growing. We grew 40% over last year. That's contributed to the agents we brought on board. I've got a lot of young agents as well. I was in Oregon last week, and the average agent of the 26 agents were there was 23 years old. These guys have graduated from high school. They're two of them. One was a valedictorian, had a full ride to a major university, gave that up. I don't encourage that, but you know what? Started making a bunch of money, and the parents said, whatever Ty and Diana is teaching you, ride that coattail. And it's phenomenal to see that. Most of them are immigrant families where they're not an immigrant, but their families are. So they're very passionate about the American culture and, giving back and for what they've been able to do. But it's phenomenal to watch the growth in those young agents. People are like, well, Ty, how'd you do it? I said, started with one, and then the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. And it's just snowballing from there.
Incredible. Well, I love it getting a chance to interview you. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for your time once again today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you, guys. Okay, go check out Brady Insurance Marketing and Mr. Ty Brady. Reach out to him, get some help. Freaking love that dude. He is building a monster company by actually talking and helping individual agents. Who else gives out their freaking cell phone? And as always, thanks for listening and watching, and we will see you on the next Power Player Podcast. Adios. Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're going to love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there. I'm so excited for today's CA Power Player Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins. We got a special guest. He is back on the channel talking about how to sell life insurance from home. Here's what I love about this person. Okay, I'm telling you, this will be one of the best.